Bloody Kisses was the third album from the Brooklyn-based band. They specialize. They get fronted as a gothic metal band, and my listenings to Bloody Kisses and just the vague knowledge I have of Typo Negative, they are not just a straightforward gothic metal band. There's a lot of crossover thrash in there as well. And so Bloody Kisses, like I said, album number 3. It follows on from Slow Deep Hard in 1991. The Origin of the Feces, which came out in 92, which was the original Goatsy album. Yeah, Bloody Kisses in 93. And at this point, they were made up of lead singer Peter Steele, guitarist Kenny Hickey, keyboardist Josh Silver, and drummer Sal Abruscato, who would make this his last Typo Negative album before going on to join Life of Agony, which I'll talk about a little bit more later. So my history with Typo Negative is such. So around, I think it must have been around 2008 when I was about 14 years old, I discovered the Roadrunner United album, which for anyone who is unaware of what that is, Roadrunner, the metal record label, who very, very prominent, even now still, they celebrated 25 years of service, basically. And to celebrate this, they got a collection of artists divided up and made 4 team captains. And they were, I'll see if I can remember them all. You had Rob Flynn from Machine Head, Matt Heafy from Trivium, who, as I was going back and doing a bit more digging about this album, Matt Heafy was fucking 19 when he made the Roadrunner United album and was working with some just incredible names. Jammy little bastard. So yeah, Rob Flynn from Machine Head, Matt Heafy from Trivium. You had Joey Jordison then of Slipknot. He'd also worked in Murder Dolls, as well as Dino Cazares of Fear Factory. So the idea was each team captain would write and record a song with an engineer. I can't remember the 4 engineers that were assigned to the album. And yeah, bring in a collection of artists from various different Roadrunner bands. And it eventually made an album, and eventually made a DVD, and the whole thing was fucking incredible. And it was a hugely important album for me because I know I said before where Manowar were the first band that really get me into niche ends of metal. The various styles and what's going on in this album completely changed how I listen to music and what I listen to. There's in Metal Hammer magazine, there's always a section where they interview a musician, and one of the questions they get asked is if a kid walked up to you and asked you what was heavy metal, what would you give them? And usually they get given an Iron Maiden or a Kiss album, something like that. I would honestly give them the Roadrunner United album because with metal being so expansive now, there's so many different genres and subgenres, and I feel like just me talking on this show, and even by my own admissions, I am a huge genre Nazi, so everything's got to have a place and be filed away somewhere. When I do the Puppy album next week, I'm going to have an awful tongue because it doesn't really fit anyone. It's going to drive me insane. Either way, Roadrunner United album introduced me to so many different types of music and so many different types of heavy metal music. So yeah, really, really important to me. And to come back to Typo, there's a song on it called Enemy of the State. And it's comprised of Peter Steele from Typo on vocals and on keyboards. You've got Steve Holt from 36 Creativists on guitars. Josh Silver from Typo, also on keyboards. Dave Pybus, then of Cradle of Filth on bass. And Joey Jordison, team captain, on drums. And personally, this was one of the weaker songs for me because being 14, 15, I want everything to be fast and explosive and energetic. So I was already kind of into punk rock at that point. And this combined with the Mikkel Ackerfeld song, which I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head. It was just, they were slow, they were dark, gloomy, it just wasn't for me. And then, so bearing in mind, the Roadrunner United album came out in 2005. I listened to it around about 2008, 2009. And eventually I found out there was a DVD, which was essentially a greatest hits of Roadrunner live. So they did songs from the United album. On the night they also covered Dayside, Fear Factory, Killswitch Engage, Trivium, Annihilator, King Diamond, and Brian Fair from Shadows 4 came on and do a song and then promptly fell off the stage because he was absolutely pissed as a fart. It was all great fun. And one of the songs that they covered was Black Number One, the, I would say, archetypal typo song. So you had Vilvaio, then of him, or Vilvalo, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce his last name, Vilvaio on vocals from him, Andreas Kisser from Sepultura on lead guitar, Dino from Fear Factor and Rhythm, Nadia Poulin from, I really hope I pronounced that right, because I put a lot of emphasis on the P. Nadia from Cold Chamber on bass, Joey on drums, and then on keyboards was Rob Caggiano of Anthrax and Volbeat. Well, then Anthrax, now Volbeat, I should say. And I was completely fucking leveled by this song. I thought it was the doomiest, scariest shit. Bear in mind, this live show had Glenn Benton from Dayside do, I think it was Dead by Dawn, and he had this big, like, I don't know how to describe it. It was just this war armor featuring like a leather mask that covered his face, and even the guys on the, because there's a little documentary that goes to the album, like they came out and saw it and they fucking shit themselves because this is a man who's got a cross burned into his forehead and said when he hits 40 he's going to kill himself because what's the point? And that is not the most leveling part of this album. It's easily this performance of Black Number One. And a lot of it was down to Vill's execution, because as much as I don't know if he's done anything since leaving or since him broke up, but Vil Vallo is a fucking phenomenal vocalist. But the first thing I wanted to do was go out and find the actual song. And so from there, I found the track list to Best of Typo Negative, which is a 2006 compilation album. And so I just thought, I'll just get the song separately because I like it when all the album artwork all links up and all that sort of shit and stuff. I'm to reorganize. And so doing that, I ended up finding a full 11-minute version of Black Number One, which is the album version. And I listened to songs from the greatest hits, or songs that would go into the greatest hits, and I've completely fell in love with just those songs. For whatever reason, I think because of my youth or whatever, I just never really went into them properly. And from there, I never quite understood why so many people went so gung-ho over Typo Negative until 2010, when Peter Steele unfortunately passed away. And literally on the internet for about 2 or 3 days after his passing, no one could talk about anything else apart from how good and how influential Pete Steele and Typo Negative was. So there was always a sense I wanted to go back and try and investigate for myself, but for whatever reason, I just never really did it. So I figured this like open mic sort of thing is a really good way for me to go back and listen to old classic albums for the very first time, as well as reintegrate myself with albums that kind of brought me to where I am now. So hence why we're here with Bloody Kisses, stuck it on, and I like to listen to my albums quite a lot connected to Bluetooth speakers. So with me working shift work, my housemates doing 9 to 5, they go away, I stay at home, I listen to music on the Bluetooth speakers, sorry. And I'm really glad they weren't home, because I did not know this album starts with a woman moaning. That'll teach me good to maybe for a first listen to an album, maybe on the old headphones, or just do a bit of research, or know what I'm getting into. Any of these things really, because yeah, I had to. I'm a very bashful man, I guess you could say. So I just sort of skimped over that for the first time I listened to it, because yeah, kind of took by surprise. So from there it goes into Christian Woman, which is another one of like the big typo songs. And in it, Peter Steele has got such a dark and such a romantic voice. Um, it kind of strikes me as I've realised now I've got Billy Vio spelled with an I now, whereas before it was spelled with an L. So I might be calling him Valo before. It's probably not right. The bloke from him. Peter Steele's voice is kind of like a meeting between Ville from him and Till Lindemann from Rammstein. That sort of really dark, broody, but really over pronunciation of lyrics and words. And the haunting like vocal melody or vocal harmony, sorry, over the top of the choruses. It just sets the mood so well and so early on to this album. This is track 2. Admittedly, it's 9 minutes long, but that's the mood that you've got for the rest of the album. And you know, as a man who likes to be sad a lot, it was fine by me. The second part of the song, because I think the song Christian Woman is divided into like 3 parts. The second part, Steele sounds a lot more delicate, especially alongside quite a simple drum beat and an acoustic guitar. He sounds a lot bit more, yes, a lot more reserved and just, like I said, very sensitive and very delicate. And then I've just described the final part as quintessentially 90s, because for me the guitar sound sits right up there with the likes of Zakk Wylde and Dimebag Darrell. And I don't know what it is, again, not a guitarist, so I couldn't really put it on, but there's just tuning and the effects on the guitar and whatever, it just sounds, it is a 90s metal sounding guitar, and it is great. And for me, although this isn't the Typo Negative song, for me it's Black Number 1, which I'll get to in just a sec, but although this isn't the one Typo song that I've immediately jump to think of, it describes everything you need to know about Typo Negative as a band. There are religious jibes and religious anecdotes throughout the entire thing. It's a haunting pairing between Peter Steele's vocal work and the synth in the background. It is all weaponized eyeliner because it's so fucking goth, and there is so much fucking sex on this album. It is unreal. I read through the lyrics to Christian Woman at one point, and it got steamy. It did get steamy. So after Christian Woman, you go into the song for me, and the song that really, really, really got me noticing Typo Negative, Black Number 1, Lit Mascara, and just the intro where it's that that really slow, really rhythmic, almost, I think it's like quite a muted bass sound. I was completely mesmerized when I was watching that Roadrunner United album version and watching Nadia just play it. I was just transfixed by it all. And like the like kind of tinny synths in the background feel like they come straight out of some B horror from the 70s, and that's an absolute great thing. Just FYI, in the grand scheme of things, when you compare it to everything else on the album, it sounds so fucking, it fits. It just fits so well. And then you've got Steele's really low end, really precise vocal delivery. And when he says milk white neck, just even now kind of gives me little shivers up and down my spine. It just, on headphones, he is just there. He is all up in you saying milk white neck, and it is just great and terrifying in equal measures. Eventually, the whole song, it just all explodes, and you realize Steele is not just the low end Danzig-esque vocalist. He can absolutely nail the more abrasive stuff as well. And the album's crossover side of it starts to like peek its way through, and he does like a little trade off with guitarist Kenny Hickey, and it like goes into the chorus where you've got like Hickey singing the lead, and it sounds really, really good to go from. I know I just said what Steele can do those like rougher edge things, but the trade off between the vocal style between that low end clean and this like not quite high end but more like we could all reach those notes instead of. Not many people can hit the low notes that Peter Steele could, I don't think. But yeah, that trade-off was fucking great. The whole song is in itself about Steele's narcissistic girlfriend, which is like I was saying last week about like King 8, King 810 and Bring Me Horizon. There's like if you want to sing a song about some like an album about something, you've got so many things to work around, especially like love and death and whatever. It is really terrifying that on the basis of that, like this is a song about love. There's been thousands, millions of songs about love. Why is this one different? There's a line in it, loving you is like loving the dead. It was like fucking the dead. That is a really off-kilter way of singing about love and relationships, which not many people do. And imagine being that girl and hearing that line. Oofed. The rest of the song continues in the structure of adding a crunch and a layer of aggression to the gothic metal. Traditionally, a genre that's a bit more subdued, a lot more atmospheric, and which I'll go into a little bit more detail in a bit. But yeah, it was. I imagine for the time, because obviously this was '93. This album came out, so it was just on the back of the '70s and '80s like gothic boom, I guess. And yeah, you've got like what you think you know about gothic metal, then this comes in, it just completely changes everything. Having said that, if you want to go any further with the crossover side of things, you need to look no further than Kill All White People, which is a great song for giant white dudes to sing about. It is it's a song with a doomy center, a doomy core, but with a lo-fi hardcore start and finish. And this continues the juxtaposition between gothic music and hardcore music. It's like the Joy Divisions, the Cures, the Hymns, the Bauhaus bands of the world versus things like Madball, Biohazard, Suicidal Tendencies, like 80s hardcore, 80s New York hardcore, boom, which I'm pretty sure Suicidal Tendencies aren't New York, and I think I might have just made a very big faux pas, but never mind. Moving on to, like, again, it goes the other way again. Set Me On Fire is musically, it sounds like a 60s, like, free love, psychedelia song, everything's cool and red, and yeah, and I promise I'll never do that again. But then, it's got this, like, dark, gothic ambience to it, and with a set of lyrics to match, because as much as it is, like, free spirit, do, the lyrics are Set Me On Fire, which, you know, probably not the best. Then it goes into, from there, it eventually leads into We Hate Everyone, which is the next song for this, like, Steele Hickey trade-off. And it really is, like, the tale of two genres. You've got the conflicting vocal styles for conflicting genres, the Peter Steele goth and the Kenny Hickey thrash. And all the while, it still remains punk as fuck. And it's just got this, like, banging vocal of We Don't Care What You Do. It's similar to how Kill All White People is, where it is the If This Were a Donut, the doom metal would be the jam, and the baked good part, the cake if you will, would be this hardcore crossover punk. You are here for top quality metaphors here. And during this segment where it's the donutty crossover thrash part, Abruscato, I know it's going to fuck his name up. Abruscato's drumming sounds fucking spectacular. Really, really dirty double kick bass. In the song previously, like Kill All White People, it's full on like D-beat sounding at times. And as much as I've gone on about like the gothicness, it is nothing compared to Bloody Kisses, A Death in the Family. It literally sounds like the soundtrack to some kind of funeral procession, and it kind of is. Like, it's an 11-minute mournful opus about the loss of Peter Steele's cat. His cat died. He loved that cat. This is a song he wrote about it. And at that point, I kind of got why so many people loved Peter Steele. Because as much as Typo Negative love to have those little jokes, and they've got very crass, very dark sense of humor, he can at times, like, he wrote an 11-minute song about his cat dying. Like, bet who else could do that? And it's not just that, the song is fucking great. You know? And as I was getting further along the album, and as I was like going into it a bit more critically, I'm sure that's a word, you do get the sense of like why this album and this band are known for how they are, because they are just the best of what they do. And from Bloody Kisses, it eventually leads into Too Late, Too Late Frozen, which I'm not quite sure why there's a colon. I don't know how you separate a colon when you're talking about it. I know you had to do it in like written down, but do you leave a gap, or Too Late Frozen is the closest the album gets to a full thrash gothic crossover. Whereas before it has to have a thrash part, let's have a gothic part, let's have a thrash part. There's a lot more a lot more mixture. So you've got up-tempo riffs, you've got like more shouty gang sections in the chorus, and then you've got like it. Compare that to like the cowl that you get throughout the song as well, and there's like a really spacey vocal effect on the opening verses. So I think, yeah, as much as they get labeled as a gothic metal band that has a crossover thrash influence, I think this is the song where you can say they sort of really do blend those styles of music together. And then the ending song of Can't Lose You is a very sitar heavy ender, and it's a beautiful way to end the album. It is easily the most delicate moment on the entire album. I know what I said about his vocal line in Christian Woman earlier, but this is just ornate glasswork in the grand scheme of things. Steele's crooning going all the way through the melancholia, and it starts to feel like you're just in the middle of a trip based on like the instrumentation and like the chanting. There's a shop in Lincoln called Salamander, which is, I don't know how to describe it. I think every city has one. It is the shop that sells henna, those like flags that white girls like to put on their uni dorms. That's got like all the different tie-dye colors and pagan markings on it. They have no idea what it means, and it's just, you can smell it from a mile away because all they do is just burn incense. That kind of shop, you know what I mean? Like I said, every city's got one, and this is a song that would play there all the time because it's just got that right kind of vibe to it. And as I was saying before, this did so much to gothic music, and it added a whole new edge and a whole new what's the word? There's danger to the genre after it. Like, it had that like 70s 80s boom, but it just fell off the earth a bit and now it's this band from Brooklyn has completely revived it. Bloody Kisses would end up becoming the first album released on Roadrunner Records to achieve gold and platinum certification. That's how good this became. And following on from Bloody Kisses, as I said before, Sal Abruscato decided to leave Typo shortly after the album was released. He went on to join a New York alt metal band, Life of Agony, of which the band's still going. Abruscato isn't with the band anymore. Get onto that in a bit. The rest of the band would enlist, Johnny Kelly, who was the band's former drum tech, he would replace Abruscato. And between Kelly, Steele, Hickey, and Josh Silver, they would release October Rust in 1996, World Coming Down in 1999, Life is Killing Me in 2003, and Dead Again in 2007. The band would break up in 2010 following the death of Peter Steele. He died the 14th of April 2010 of an aortic aneurysm. He was only 48 years old, and it's an unfair way to die. It's an unfair age to die. And considering at the time, Steele had gone through a lot of tragedy in his personal life, and he was, from I remember reading at the time, he had just not recovered, but he had kind of got a fix on things, and he had really done a lot to try and move past all of that and to move past everything he went through. And he was in a good part of his life. To then be taken the way he did is a complete travesty. And there was never a debate for the band as to whether or not to continue. Johnny Kelly would state in an interview that even if there was someone who could take his place, it wouldn't matter. We don't have any interest in continuing. It's impossible. It hasn't even come up in any kind of discussion. When Peter died, Typo Negative died with him, which I think is a very Typo Negative response to everything that's happened. I think Peter Steele would be very happy with not just what the band did, but how Kelly worded it. And yeah, it's a tragic shame. But that's not to say that the rest of the band aren't still making music, because they absolutely are. As I said a couple of times, Sal Abruscato has played on and off with Life and Agony into 2017, and he currently fronts a pale horse named Death, which also includes Johnny Kelly. Now, Johnny Kelly, obviously Typo Negative drummer. I've lost where I am. There we are. Typo Negative drummer. He also formed Seventh Void with Kenny Hickey. Kelly and Hickey have done a lot of projects together, so this is going to get very confusing very quickly, but I'll do my best. So, Johnny Kelly formed Seventh Void with guitarist Kenny Hickey. They ended up splitting up the band in 2017, and Kelly currently plays with Danzig in his solo band. Kill Devil Hill with Rex Brown forming Pantera. And more recently, again with Kenny Hickey, he's formed the band Silvertune. Now, Silvertune remains Hickey's sole active project. And alongside himself and Johnny Kelly, he's also got Joseph James from Agnostic Front, Seventh Void alumni Hank Hell, and you've got the keyboardist from Empyrean called Aaron Jews. And so, yeah, Kelly and Hickey have worked together a lot over the past, ever since the breakup of Typo Negative. And now they are starting to work again with Sal in his new venture. Keyboardist Josh Silver, following the dissolution of Typo, decided to pursue a career as a paramedic. So he hasn't, as far as I'm aware, he hasn't released anything new or been part of a new band since the breakup, which is, again, absolutely fair enough. If you have interest in going into Typo Negative in the same way I did, and it's a case of just finding out how good they were, if you are a fan, Typo remain one of those bands. I feel it's a disservice to say they're fans of, because I feel like if you're fans of any of the bands I'm about to list, then it's mad that you haven't already been at least aware of Typo Negative previously. But I was comparing them a lot to Danzig, and I think that's a lot of it down to the kind of vocal line, very deep, very powerful voice. A Pale Horse Named Death, which is like I said, it's a new doom metal, I guess you can call it a supergroup. It features Abruscato and now Johnny Kelly. I'm going to quickly see who else is in that band. I'm pretty sure it is like a who's who of members. That is the wrong button. Or it could be completely wrong, and I don't recognise any of his names. I'm going to be quiet. Also, you featured members of Seventh Void as well, so it's very much I guess you could call it like an in-group sort of thing. You know what I mean? So yeah, Danzig, A Pale Horse Named Death. Also, Would to Be Prez, which is another deep, very emotive, very depressing doom metal outfit, which again unfortunately features a vocalist who passed away in his prime. If you've somehow glossed over Typo, I know I did, and gone into any of those other bands, I do think it be worth you going back to look at Bloody Kisses, because it is a just fantastic album. It's so goth as fuck.